Update: would I be the a-hole for refusing to host my cousin's wedding reception? Original post: I, 24 female, got married very recently to my husband, 28 male. About a year ago, before we got married, we purchased our first home. We did extensive renovations on the house and put a lot of thought, time, care, and money into it. It is our dream home, sanctuary, a forever home we don't plan to let go of. My cousin, 33 female, recently got engaged and is going to get married this year. She and I are very different in personality, so we have never been close. Our families, however, could not be closer. Her dad and mine are brothers. Some background: she and her husband, 33 male, both currently live with their respective parents. She was pursuing a nursing degree but left the program. She's not working right now. Her husband works. I don't know how much he makes, but it's an average income job. I mention this because they want to throw a big, extravagant wedding. I have my personal opinion about this, but I also understand that my opinion doesn't matter. It's their wedding, their life. I have never voiced anything other than a congratulations on the engagement. The issue is when there is an expectation that family should help them achieve this. I eloped with my husband, and while we didn't have a public wedding, we did throw an intimate reception in our new property. We live in a very quiet, scenic rural area on a small acreage. It is private and thoughtfully landscaped. We have a natural pond and our property is surrounded by the woods. We chose not to disturb the land around us too much, so some of the property line is in the woods. All this to say, it's not a lot of space as it seems when I say acreage. And also to say, without a doubt, it made for a very nice outdoor venue. I understand the appeal, but the key difference is we had small wedding reception. My cousin was a big one with 80+ guests. Still, I decided to hear my cousin out. I didn't know at the time how big she wanted her reception to be. I was placed under the impression that it would be like ours. I invited my cousin over, and she and I talked about how I set up my reception. I gave her kind of an outline she could use, including all the catering, decor, florists, etc. I made her a meticulous package on Google Docs and shared it with her. She seemed to agree with everything I was saying with a smile. I told her my husband is away for 3 weeks and I will be gone for a week as well. And if she wants, she is welcome to do some planning. Just give me a heads up. I always give my mom access to my house just in case, especially since both my husband and I travel a lot. My mom texted me if my cousin can come in with someone to plan seating arrangements outside, and I told her as long as she, my mom, is present to oversee, they can come. That's when I learned through my mom that she's planning an 80+ guest wedding and extending the reception into our house, which I explicitly said in person and in my Google Docs is off limits. My mom told her she cannot tour with the organizer the inside of the home, that the owners have not given permission. This upset my cousin. When the organizers left, she became very upset and stormed out on bad terms. Her mother then called my mother to complain ruthlessly about me. I just got back today, and I'm told I'm being accused of being spoiled and selfish and small-hearted. None of these accusations feel warranted. I talked to my husband about what happened, and he told me the bride and her family are being disrespectful toward me, and as such, they do not deserve to host in our home altogether. He said he would revoke the invitation himself. I told him let me think about it, how to best proceed. Would it be wrong to go back on my word and tell her I can't host her reception? It will cause her problems, but it's not my problem. Here is where I feel a bit a-holy. Edit: they're now offering to cut down the guest list, but I feel like the trust is no longer there, and their sudden animosity towards me makes me hesitant to put my home and self-respect at risk just to appease extended family members. I don't believe they will follow through with their promises or honor the boundaries I've set. I feel like I was misled under false pretenses into agreeing in the first place. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Agree 110% with your husband. Revoke the invitation and be done with it. Entitled cousin has champagne tastes on a beer budget. No matter what you do, she's going to be hateful. So set her free. She doesn't even have a beer budget by the sound of things. Not the a-hole. Call a family meeting to talk to everyone all at once in a public place. Say your piece and keep it simple, fair, and unemotional. If in a one-party state, record the blow-up subtly. Or make sure it is in an area with no expectation of privacy. Once they are done acting like entitled idiots, make them aware of the recording, and that if they start spreading rumors or talking about you negatively, you will have to set the record straight. Wish the couple the very best, but while you are a family and were nice enough to extend the offer, their attitude has shown that they do not respect others, and you no longer trust them. They're on their own to fund their life in all aspects. Apologize to your father/uncle if this causes strife, but it is not your responsibility to deal with that behavior, and you expect better manners from family, especially if they try to use family as their leverage for freebies. Not the a-hole. And in the discussions, did she ever mention who would be responsible for the cleanup? I'm sure they'd leave it for you and your husband. The cleanup alone is enough to not let the reception in your house. You're so right. I feel like she didn't even read my document, because once I agreed she had made the secret plan to do what she wants. Don't forget bathrooms. I bet people will end up in your house at some point, unless you guys lock up the house. Then she will need to bring in porta potty for guests. Also, not sure if special insurance will be needed in case someone gets hurt on your property. You would be liable for this. Now for the first update. I was encouraged to make an update. Some clarification of the venue. We have a carriage house next to our main house. In between the two buildings is a courtyard. The reception would have been held in this courtyard, as well as in the carriage house for an indoor/outdoor feel. The weather where we live is not an issue. My husband was even going to string market lights between the two buildings. We have a very large finished bathroom at a carriage house that would have been for the guests. I was also going to utilize the mudroom of the main house, which has another bathroom for guests with easy access from the courtyard. The mudroom has good separation from the main part of the house, mostly by a large breezeway. We have a long drive that leads to the house, so parking would have not been an issue either. All this to say, the setup would have been perfect for a small reception. We would have thoughtfully taken care of it all. We had no issues when my husband and I hosted our own wedding reception. I love hosting and went into this genuinely happy to host. But it was always based on the understanding that my cousin's reception would be the same size/scale as ours, small and intimate. She never corrected me when I explained capacity. I sent her my notes and stuff for my reception. It had seating plans too. I think she always had the intention of securing my home as a venue and then doing what she wanted with it, hoping to get it done in my absence. When she realized my mom would supervise her visit to my house while I was away, her plan fell apart and landed us where it did. After my mom caught my cousin trying to arrange seating for guests way over the approved capacity, my cousin's family started to slander me for shutting her ideas down. I got called a lot of things I am absolutely not. This included jealous and saboteur for not being accommodating last minute. Their behavior toward me and their entitlement over our home angered my husband, who was still away. I talked it over him and we decided I should not host my cousin's reception. My cousin and her family tried to bargain with my mother, their attempt to bypass my no. They even tried to hide their phone numbers to trick my mom into answering. My cousin and her family began bullying my poor mother to convince me to accept a smaller guest list. Still over capacity, by the way. All this time they went for my mother. My phone stayed silent. I called my cousin to stop harassing my mother because I am firm in my decision to no longer host her. The trust is not there, and their behavior makes me not want to host them. She blew up on me during this conversation, expressing that I will be single-handedly botching the wedding if I back out of providing her a reception venue, and that I am cruel for not being able to do this one thing for her during a once-in-a-lifetime milestone. She told me to just please see things from my perspective and think about it. I told my husband I am tired of the cousin and her family not taking my no for an answer. I have been respectfully direct, but they keep trying to persuade me, and it's very exhausting. I know they're only saying things to get me to say yes, but they will likely not honor any of it. He said he will take care of it. He called my cousin and told her we will not be hosting her, and her disrespect towards me will also not be tolerated. He told her I was always clear on capacity, and the tantrum she and her family are throwing is because they hope to trick me into allowing a bigger reception than I approved. For the failure of that, she only has herself to blame. She started crying and asked my husband if she could throw a smaller reception at the approved capacity. My husband said we are way past negotiation. He will not allow it, not even if I ask him to. I know he said this to give me an out, and I appreciate it a lot. He told my cousin not to contact me or my mother about this request again because he will be the one they have to answer to from now on. They haven't called or texted, but my cousin tried to DM me on Instagram, and my husband sent her a voice note from my account to the chat. So I think she will stop now. Wow, their behavior has been pretty disgusting. They thought they could trick/bully you into doing this. Glad you had your mom and husband on your side. The backhanded treachery is the worst part of it, tacitly agreeing to the conditions while actively planning on breaking them. And all the relatives are mad because they didn't get to party at OP's place. Yeah, and OP hasn't mentioned anything about if they were giving them money to cover the cost of hosting them, or whether they were expected to cover that too. Sorry for not including that. The groom/bride's family were paying for everything except for a few things my husband kindly offered to pay for. One of these was hiring valet to handle parking, but that was something he wanted to do to protect us/our property. But I know he would have generously offered cover to help the event run smoothly. This was supposed to be a 40 people max event. She tried to bring in over double that. Not the a-hole. You know, I'm not always fond of guys being placed in positions where we have to play the mean, scary man role. But I won't deny it's definitely effective when you've got a bunch of cowardly people who talk trash until someone stands up out of their chair at an average height of a male individual and speaks a little above indoor volume. He had a figurative big stick, and he used it to perfection. I absolutely agree. I try not to use my husband until I absolutely have to, and wish I could have handled it entirely on my own, but it wasn't working with these people. The experience has definitely made me reflect on my assertiveness though, and how it can improve, especially when it's quite clear my cousin and her family were counting on me being someone they could get their way with/manipulate. Second update. This will be my final update regarding this issue, and I will keep it short. My cousin ended up having her wedding reception at a different relative's property. I did not attend, and neither did my husband. This is because during the time between us saying no and her still looking for an alternative venue, she made an extremely racist remark about my husband. Along with that, in a group chat screenshot that was sent to me, she called him, in exact quotes, controlling a tall mother tyrant and misogynist effer. All of this because my husband was zero tolerance about her entitled behavior and would not let her go around him. I decided to boycott the wedding. I did not want to celebrate with her. I've also gone no contact with her family. During all this, only my uncle, her father, apologized for my cousin's bridezilla behavior. My cousin and her mother have continued to remain firm on the fact that I am an ungenerous and cold-hearted person who doesn't help family. I have a small heart basically. I have urged my mom to do the same, go no contact, but I will leave it up to her own discretion. About 110 people showed up to my cousin's reception party. From what I hear, people were peeing in the bushes and stuff. Lots of littering, some property damage, and someone injured themselves, warranting an ER trip, lighting firecrackers. I think some parking violations also happened, for which there are fines. I think that's all. End of update. PSA. I highly recommend you don't ever host anyone's reception/wedding. It's honestly not worth it, as they're a whole different beast. I love to host small dinner parties, soirees, and events, but this was kind of eye-opening. And I realized how out of my depth/naive I was to have ever said yes. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom if she was a real mom, she would divorce her husband after he destroyed my career? My mom has been a witch ever since I met my wife and she met her husband. She hates her. She hates me. She sucks now, but to be fair, she used to be the best mom. I had a damn good childhood. Anyway, my mom's husband, Richard, has always hated me. He encourages my mom to go no contact, loudly announces how much happier she is during periods of no contact, and has said unforgivable things about my wife. I hardly tolerate him these days. Anyway, my wife is an angel, but like a normal wife and mother, has some stress. One thing she really struggles with is the pressure of being married to a businessman and all that entails. My wife hates my boss's wife and sometimes makes fun of her behind her back, but I view it as a normal healthy venting. My mom doesn't even know this other woman, but jumps in to defend her. So I've asked my wife not to do it around her anymore. Well, the other day, my mom's husband was playing golf and met my boss. He recognized him from hearing his position and told him he knew me. Then he started it on, "Do you know what his wife says about yours?" and told him everything. My boss called me into his office and tore me to pieces. It was humiliating, and now I feel my career is in jeopardy. He's been giving me all the crappy work lately and making jokes at my expense. I drove to my mom's house and asked Richard why he did this, but he just started laughing. My mom lightly slapped his shoulder and told him he shouldn't have done it, but she wasn't that bothered. I finally lost it and yelled at her that if she was a real mom, she would divorce him. But I know the moment I leave, she's going to cook his dinner and probably do more because she doesn't care about her kid. Not the a-hole. If there was ever anyone who should be totally no contact with his family, it's you. To be honest, the writing is on the wall as far as your job goes, so I would start looking for a new one sooner than later. Also, think about moving. Sometimes a fresh start in a new area is what people need. Your spouse seems to be in need of maturing. She wasn't at all jealous or should have behaved that way toward your boss's wife. She's being a major bully. This is not healthy venting. Everyone sucks here. Your wife and mother don't get along, so why did your wife talk smack in front of the mother-in-law? It's the oldest issue in the book, that the mother-in-law or the wife will find ways to screw each other over. Also, you could have simply denied to your boss and told him the guy has it out for you but has a record of lying. It was a he said, she said situation. But the easiest way for word to not get back to boss that you and or wife was crap talking his wife is to never talk crap in front of anyone, let alone someone who clearly would love to use anything they can get to mess with you. Wife sucks for talking about anyone in front of mom. Her husband sucks for tattling. And OP sucks for throwing this little tantrum when he should be distancing himself instead. Why are you chasing after your mom like this? She ain't going to dump him, so find a way to pull back. And definitely don't give her any gossip fodder when you do see her. Not the a-hole. However, no one in this story seems like a particularly good person. I feel like I need to know more about why your wife hates your boss's wife. I'm sure she has her reasons, and your boss is immature for how he handled the situation. You should definitely go no contact with your mother and her husband. Blowing up on them and saying the things you did was probably not the right thing to do. But it's over now. Update. Am I the a-hole for moving after winning full custody of my sons? Original story. My wife and I got a divorce last year. Our relationship failed after she was charged with felony credit card fraud and ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge. She had been a stay-at-home mom to our two sons, 5 and 3, and had taken credit cards out in my mom's name to pay for God knows what. She shattered my trust. I work full-time and make a decent living, but nothing extravagant. I had no clue what my wife was doing until cops showed up at my door with a warrant and took my wife away in cuffs and took 2 laptops as evidence. When I got the full story, I filed for divorce immediately. Aside from being a criminal, she was a good mom. She tried to justify what she did by saying she was just doing what was best for our kids, which I felt was total BS, given that she never mentioned wanting for anything. And anytime she asked to spend on something, I almost always said yes. I hired a good lawyer and asked for full custody of my kids. My ex begged me not to do that, saying she needed her kids. But she was still looking at up to a year in jail, and nothing her lawyer said could sway the judge to grant her anything more than supervised visitation. She ended up doing 90 days in jail, paying some fines and restitution, but I've allowed her to see our sons almost every time she's asked. The last year has been total hell, but we've made it work. Then a few months ago, I was offered a much more lucrative position a few states away. I talked with my lawyer about what it would mean if I moved and what the process was, and he said that since I have full custody, I have to file a petition with the court to move. So I told my wife what I wanted to do, and she exploded. She claimed I was stealing her kids from her, that she's made a lot of strides to get herself to a better place, and that she would fight me tooth and nail for her kids. Well, I filed a petition, got the go-ahead from the courts, and accepted the job. When the judge gave its ruling, my wife burst into tears and began sobbing. It was heartbreaking. I know in my head that I'm doing the right thing for my sons. They are young enough that a move like this won't be too traumatic, But I also feel like their lives have already been completely overturned and I'm just adding more to that. As for my wife, she's a wreck. She has been begging me to reconsider the move, trying everything from guilt trips, manipulation, bargaining. It's like she's going through the stages of grief. But from my point of view, she did this to herself. She lied and broke the law. I have very little sympathy for her. I know at some point she will probably try to file for partial custody, and I'm prepared for that. For now, I'm just trying to do what's best for me and my sons. Does that make me an a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. This is tough. The divorce and getting full custody? Fully deserved. Not an a-hole in that account. Moving to another part of the country where she'll have no contact with them? I'm not so sold on this. I think that you're still in pain and resent her, and rightfully so, but I'm not sure this is the best you can do regarding your children's relationship with their mother. Does she have any possibility of getting a job? Of moving? Or is she a financial mess as well? And what are her living conditions like now? Have you gone to therapy? Let me be clear. She did what she did and she's been held accountable for it. You've got a right to move from a legal perspective. But moving, when you know she can't do the same, will massively screw her relationship with your children, and it will only lead to more anger, resentment, and pain. I don't know her full financial situation. I know she's working a couple part-time jobs and has a small 2-bedroom apartment. Whether or not she could move, I don't know. She's under probation, so she'd need to apply to move anyway. My new job pays over twice what my previous did. It's a huge opportunity for me to provide a better life for my sons. I don't want to sit around here and wait for my ex to get her act together. Y'all know this begging for a gender-reversed situation? Holy crap. People are actually calling him an a-hole. OP is not an a-hole. Please, all you moms out there need to let go of your biases. I'm a mom, and all the YTAs sicken me. The mom didn't make a mistake, or a one-time bad decision. She's not a good mom. She knowingly and ongoingly committed a major crime against her own mother-in-law. A crime that directly affected her kids. Her willingness to do this, with no remorse, shows her character. A good mom doesn't choose clothes, makeup, and toys over her children. They just don't. Info. How are you going to maintain your son's relationship with her mother? Does she pay child support? If you alienate them from her, she will resent you. She may eventually be able to go back to court with a parental alienation claim. I'm reserving judgment. I haven't put too much thought into that part yet, but I do not intend on completely isolating them from her. If she can figure out a way to see them, I will not prevent that. I imagine holidays will be something we need to figure out as well. But like I said, I do not intend on preventing her from seeing our sons. She has court-ordered to pay child support, but so far I haven't seen a dime, and I have a desk. Edit. Thank you to everyone who commented, even the ones who called me a heartless a-hole for taking my sons away from their mother. This post has given me a lot of perspective and I appreciate that. A couple of things I want to clear up that I keep getting asked about that I wasn't able to include in my original post. 1. The area my sons and I live in is a smaller community. Not everyone knows everyone's small, but close. The crime my ex committed was news here as it was in the paper. People know about it. I get weird looks when I'm out in public. People have stopped inviting my sons to birthday parties, and I don't want my sons to be bullied and teased in school about their mother being a criminal. 2. I'm not going to permanently alienate my sons from their mother. I will make sure they are able to talk and FaceTime with her whenever they want. I will be the one who makes the drive back in order for them to see her until she is able to make arrangements to allow her to do so. I will continue to work with my ex to make sure she's included in things like birthdays and holidays. 3. I know my sons and I will all need therapy from this. There is no good mental health help available where my previous job is. My new job offers on-site childcare, and I will have access to counseling and therapy for myself and my sons that we would not have access to without moving. The schools near my new job are head and shoulders above the ones near my previous job. 4. If my ex gets her life back on track and is able to move closer to us, I'm all for it. If she does the things she needs to do in order to petition for shared custody, I don't intend on fighting her for that. But until she does that, I will not allow her anything more than the supervised visits ruled by the court. I will also not ask for any of the court-ordered child support. We won't need it. 5. To all the people who screamed, but she is their mother. Yes, and she always will be. And I remind my sons daily that their mom loves them very much. and that she wishes she can be with them like before. I am angry and resentful of my wife, but I work very, very hard to not let any of those feelings impact my sons and their relationship with their mom. And now for the update. I got a lot of people asking for an update on the situation, and since a few things have changed, I figured I would go for it. I did end up taking the new job and moved with my sons. We have been settling into our new lives quite nicely over the last month, and things have been going really well. My sons love the new house. They have made friends with some other kids their age in the neighborhood. My job has been going really well, and I really couldn't have hoped for things to go better than they have. I got both my sons into a great therapy program, and the three of us have also been doing counseling sessions together. My boys have been adjusting amazingly well, and I'm so happy and proud of how they've handled this. We've also made 2 trips back to see their mother, since she's still in the process of figuring out what she will be allowed to do in relation to her probation. We've also been doing many video calls a week with her. My sons still don't understand why their mom isn't here with us, but they do seem to grasp that this is going to be their new normal. In comparison with how well myself and my sons are adjusting, my ex is the complete opposite. She is still very angry with me and thinks I'm a complete a-hole. She's frustrated with the process of going through the courts to be allowed to move. She's frustrated that I'm not willing to drive our sons back to see her as often as she'd like. She feels she's being marginalized in their lives and that I am pulling them away from her. When she was complaining about all of these during our last visit, I reminded her that all of those things are consequences of her own actions, and she blew up at me by saying I'm kicking her when she's already down. That I didn't need to take her sons away from her. I told her how well our sons are doing and how happy they are, and she should be proud of how strong and resilient they've been. She then started begging me to please move back so that she can be closer because she's not sure the courts will allow her to move, and the process is taking too long. I told her that wasn't going to happen, but if there is anything I can do with the court process, that I would be willing to help if I can. I reminded her that I haven't said anything about her not paying the court-ordered child support, but that our boys seem to be in a much better place already, and I'm not going to take that away from them. Every time we have a video call with her, as soon as she says goodbye to our sons, she starts asking me to consider moving back home. I tell her every time that it is not happening. I'm not a robot, and I do feel bad to see her desperate and distraught. But when I look at my sons playing and laughing with their new friends, I know I've done the right thing no matter the cost to my ex. How did she end up on the hook for paying child support given her status? It's a token amount based on her income. With my higher salary, I don't need her help to provide for our kids. But she hasn't made an effort to pay anything yet either. She's going to blame you when they take her tax refund, lol. She already blames me for a lot of things. We'll just add that one to the list. Just want to piggyback and say if she's not making an effort to pay child support in any way, likely no court would give her partial custody anyways. She's not showing she can support kids in any minimal capacity. Also, my father raised my sister and I alone, but courts ruled for 50-50 custody because of you can't separate kids from their mother BS. Both moms and dads can be incapable of being a parent. Her fraud history and subsequent emotional breakdown, as it seems, definitely puts her in the category of not being responsible enough for custody's sake. Keep up the good work. You sound like a great father. I asked this on the original post, but did your ex ever come clean about where the untraceable cash payments went towards? That's still a big thing that should bug you when it comes to trust with your kids. Encourage her to get therapy, and please pressure her into coming clean about that money, and get her to show evidence so she's telling the truth. She's made some vague statements about paying cash for designer clothes and other higher price items, but still not enough to count for all of it, and I still take most of what she tells me with a large grain of salt. That's concerning. Hopefully through counseling she might be able to get the courage to open up and admit where the rest of that money, your mom's money, went. This might just be me being paranoid, but if you don't believe she's telling you the whole truth, you might need to hold off on letting your kids see her if she gets the approval to move. That money could have gone to anything. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay for my fiancé's college debts? I've third male always been super careful with my own money. For most of my professional life, I earned a little more than a minimum wage and always kept my costs and lifestyle on low. I've been working since 16-year-old and never got a single debt on my name. Something I'm proud of. This past year, I got a very good job. I've been able to save a lot of money so I can finally buy my own house and stop renting. I've been dating her, 23 female, for 2 years, and I met her in one of my jobs at a college. She was a student there, and because of financial problems on her family, she had to quit college, leaving some debts behind. Her parents used to pay for her college. I've been living with her for 1 year now, and I pay for everything, food, rent, etc. After moving together, I feel like her parents kinda expect me to pay for everything related to her. And her father once asked me why I didn't put her back in college to finish her course. And I told him very politely that I couldn't afford it, since it was more than 50% of my monthly income and I had rent, food, and everything else to pay for, and we get zero help from them. Today she received an email from this college saying they will pass her debts along to justice and stuff, and she could negotiate. She then called me and said, "I have something serious to ask. I need you to pay my debt." I said I don't want to, because this is a debt her parents made, not me. Also, her debt is almost 50% of everything I could save this past year, and it's a huge chunk of my savings. She is silent all day after that. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Run, dude. She's 23 and old enough to know how bills work. Run. I feel like he accidentally adopted her, rather than started a relationship. Right? Like, why isn't she working? Her father once asked me why I didn't put her back in college to finish her course. Is she your child or your partner? Info. Why is she paying nothing towards expenses? Yeah, agreed. This is so weird to me. Info. You pay for her food, rent, etc.? Where's her money going? Or is she just sitting around on her butt? Do not pay, and do not buy a house and let her take it over. Yes, at the moment, she has no job. She does most of the home stuff, cleaning laundry, etc. Edit. I appreciate all your answers. Guess it's time to have the talk with her and put all the cards on the table if we are really to get a future together. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my wife if she's jealous of our daughter? My daughter is 15. She will be starting year 11 at school when the summer is over, and the school will be having a prom at the end of the year. My wife, 44 female and a senior accountant, was talking to our daughter about her own school leaving party. It wasn't called a prom back then in the UK, and she mentioned that she still owns the outfit she wore. She showed her a couple of pictures too. Later, when we were getting ready for bed, my wife noticed that her wardrobe was open. On closer inspection, she saw that the outfit she was discussing earlier was gone. She went into our daughter's room to see her wearing it and taking pictures of herself in the mirror. Obviously, having our daughter go into her wardrobe and trying on her things without asking was annoying, but I thought my wife's reaction was a little extreme. She asked, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" and demanded my daughter change out of it immediately. My daughter was almost in tears from how my wife spoke to her. I tried to speak to my wife about why she was so angry, but she just kept saying our daughter is not to touch her things without permission. I understand this, but I don't see why she's so enraged about it. My wife and daughter look very similar. They've even been called sisters in the past. Based on this, I asked if my wife felt jealous at seeing our daughter wear her dress. When I said this, she got even more upset and said she was going to sleep in our spare room. She isn't speaking to me today. Did I go too far with my comment? I'm just trying to figure out why my wife was so angry. You're the a-hole. The dress is probably something important to your wife, and she took care of it. And your daughter treated it like an accessory for her social media. People have some things that are important to them and won't let others touch it. It is normal, even if the person is her daughter. You messed up and should apologize. Edit for the people saying the mom screaming made her an a-hole. Of course her reaction wasn't the best. Yes, parents should be perfect. But if you ever saw a parent that never once was mad because their kid did something stupid with something they see has importance, then where do you live? And for the people saying the dad isn't an a-hole because he was just trying to find out, have you been in a relationship? Because the question when your partner is mad is usually, why are you mad? Not, are you crazy? Or something equivalent. Because a mother that is jealous of her daughter is crazy. Everyone sucks here. I think this is a story that would be told so differently from all 3 point of views. I agree with everyone sucks here. Daughter shouldn't have tried it on without permission. Mom shouldn't have cursed angrily at daughter. OP definitely shouldn't have accused mom of being jealous of daughter, like the turd cherry on top of your really crappy pie. A mess of bad communication. Everyone sucks here. Update. Would I be the a-hole if I refused to sell my house below market value? Original story. I, 27 female, own a 75% share of a house with my ex, 28 male, who owns a 25% share. The difference is due to my own savings and inheritance money that I put into the house when we bought it a few years ago. Now we are splitting up, mostly because he and I want different things, and he is unwilling to compromise to meet my needs. The house is great, and in the city we grew up in. He loves the place and would like to stay as it has emotional value to him, but due to his lower income, he isn't able to buy me out at market value. He asked I sell him my share below value, which would cost me around $40,000, so he can stay. His reasons are because I don't love the city and the house, and will be able to get something equivalent. I have ambitions to move abroad, so it's more pragmatic to buy him out because I actually want the house. I also have more savings and a much higher income, so indeed it will be easy to get a similar place on my own, while that is impossible for him. While indeed it wouldn't impact me that much to lose the money, I just don't think it's fair, as he's been having much lower living costs due to our lower mortgage, due to the money I put in, and I agreed to give him a share in the first place when I was planning to buy it alone, so he profits due to the increased market value if I buy him out. He thinks I'm an a-hole for not agreeing immediately to his plan, and all our friends and family are on his side and calling me a cold heartless witch for kicking him out after breaking up with him. So would I be the a-hole to not agree to this plan? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. If your friends and relatives want him to have that $40,000, then they can all get together and give it to him. Not the a-hole. Absolutely do not agree to his demand. It is not your responsibility to take a $40,000 loss just because, what, that's what's most convenient for him? You've already put so much more into this house than he has. If there's a way to go forward with minimal or no contact with him, for example having a lawyer handle all future communications, that would be best. Do not interact with any of the friends or family he directed to attack you. Block them if possible. Them calling you a witch is crossing the line. Reframe. Am I the a-hole for not giving my ex $40,000? You are not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Opie's question about valuing $40,000 over a 9-year relationship really goes to show how much others have pushed that idea in her head. The one and only reason that her ex has any ownership stake in the house is because Opie was generous enough to allow him to buy a share when she wanted to purchase it alone to begin with. She was already taken advantage of once by her ex right here. The ex cannot afford that house. Plain and simple. He couldn't afford it when it was first purchased, and he cannot afford it now. The house should be sold to a third party at market value. An ex can take her own share and buy a more appropriate home for herself. If everyone else thinks he still deserves the house, they can give him, or lend him, the money to buy it at a reasonable rate from Opie. Not a a-hole. You don't typically give your ex a $40,000 parting gift when you break up. Breaking up is a gift itself in some situations. And now for the update. Thank you for everyone who commented at the time. Gotten a few requests for updates, so here goes. As per a comment, I told him I already gave him 9 years of my life, and I don't owe him anymore. Strangely, he was calm and asked for 3 months to find a way to come up with the money. In the end, he bought my share. I'm sure I could have gotten much more at the open market, and our original agreement in hindsight was in his favor, but I don't care for his happiness and decided to let it go. Like the house, most of the furniture was also mine, and he cried and pleaded for me to leave it behind, as he was broke and deeply in debt with not only banks but also friends and family. And like an idiot I agreed, taking pity. I only took a few items, which I stored there while I found a new place. When I came to pick it up this weekend, lo and behold, he has gotten top-end replacements for the items I did take. Broke, huh? My butt. All in all, he was just taking advantage of me, and has zero dignity begging his ex for money, furniture, and it's clear to me he was always taking and never giving back. It was a very expensive lesson. I probably was a wuss paying him off, putting my own financial stability at risk, as that's what happened, for someone who would have never done that for me even when we were together. Not the most exciting update, but I do get a fresh start in a place that is only mine. You did something out of kindness and empathy. He took advantage. Don't beat yourself up for being a good person. Be glad you are away from this taker. Good luck in moving abroad. Yeah, maybe mistakes were made, but nothing earth-shattering. Cut your losses and move on knowing that you're better off now that he's entirely out of your life. It's how I think about charity or helping people on the street. Others tell me I'm being naive, and they'll just spend it on drugs, or it's a con or whatever. Maybe, possibly, probably, but that's on them. I'm doing a nice thing, trying to be helpful, trusting and caring for people. That's how I want to live. If they are cheating on me, that's how they live. If you are untrusting and suspicious of everyone, yeah, you might be $5 richer, but that's how you're living. I'm happy. You're free now, that's all that matters. Focus on that. Yep, Opie's free and can have fresh new furniture that matches the new house and isn't tainted by a stanky ex. Way to go, Opie. Enjoy the freedom, new digs, and new things. Oh, he is still broke. Probably bought everything on credit. Don't let appearances fool you. And if he did end up borrowing from friends and family in order to buy Opie out, won't they be thrilled when he stiffs them? Next story is titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told a friend that her experience was not traumatic and that she is spoiled? I have a friend, 27, that had an agreement with her parents that they would let her live for free in a second home that they own, provided that she was in school and working towards a degree. But she dropped out of school 5 years ago and has made no plans to return, while living for free in this home. Her parents decided to sell the house last year. It was a typical home sale, and she had about 3 months to pack, move, and find a new place. She never packed or found a new place, and as a result, ended up moving in, for free, to her childhood bedroom in her parents' primary home. Her father and I frantically packed everything days before the closing, and she hadn't done anything herself. Now she retells the story that the home was sold out from under her, and that she wasn't given the opportunity to buy it. No way she would qualify for a mortgage based on lack of credit and income, and that she became homeless after the sale and that the situation was traumatic for her. She keeps acting like a Nahal and blaming everything on her trauma. I'm so sick of listening to her retell the events this way so many times. So would I be the a-hole if I point out that many people would have been very grateful for years of free living, that she was never homeless, and that she's acting spoiled? Not the a-hole. 1. She was never homeless. 2. She could move back to her parents' house. Not everyone can. 3. She's been living for free for a few years. That's already a big benefit. Yeah, to her, it may seem bad because she was used to the comfort, but it's not traumatic at all objectively. She's still living for free. Basically, her free home got smaller. Now she only has a free room, and likely free meals, etc., with shared use of all the main areas instead of an entire free house to herself. She didn't even have to pack. Enablers Opie and Dad came and did it for her. I'm not entirely sure Opie and the dad should be called enablers. The purchase agreement between the seller and buyer may have contained a clause that the home is vacant prior to closing. This is so the new owner doesn't inherit the tenant and have to deal with evicting her and all that which goes with it. Also, there could be financial issues for the seller/dad. Sale falls through, reimbursing buyer expenses, inspections, etc. Maybe storage fees for the buyer's belongings and hotel rooms for buyer until they can move in possibly. It would be easier for the dad, and Opie, to pack the daughter's stuff. Not Dayhall, but why are you still friends with someone like that? She would benefit from being cut off from you and her parents ASAP. Believe it or not, we did used to have good times together. But lately she has just been acting very rude and blaming everything on her trauma, and using that as an excuse for being rude. Maybe suggest for her to go to talk to a therapist about it? I feel like one big thing must have triggered all this, to be honest. And maybe she just doesn't realize she needs to talk to a professional. Not Dayhall. At first, I thought it was going to be something, and I was going to say people have different experiences. But no, this is her just being spoiled and kinda lazy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sticking by my no family policy? I, 52 female, inherited some money and decided to invest some of it in properties to rent out. Things were good for a few years, so when a cousin of mine approached me about renting in one of my apartments, I agreed, but only under the condition that they'd pay the same amount of rent as everyone else. My cousin agreed. In the first year, everything was good, until they hit hard times and were begging for leniency. They were family and had kids, so I decided to work with them a little as I was told that this was only temporarily. They still paid me something regularly, but only paid the market value once every 3 months. Because again, times were hard. And anytime I tried to speak to them about it, they would give me some sob story. And I would get pressure from other members of the family because they accidentally found out. For 2 more years, I put up with this crap. Until I found out that not only did my cousin bounce back about 6 months from when they asked the first time, but they were doing better than ever, and bragged about how they could get away with paying less rent. How did I find out? The wife posted pictures of a trip on social media because she loves to brag. When I confronted them, they tried to say that the trip was paid for by someone else, but when they refused to provide proof, I hit them with an eviction. As predicted, they sent the flying monkeys after me, but drew out the eviction process as long as possible. In the end, I managed to get them out, but not after they did some damage on the way out. I'm still angry and refuse to talk to my cousin or his wife to this very day. After that, I made a no family policy and made it known to relatives that while I would recommend them other places to rent, they could never rent with me. Everyone eventually seemed to get it, or at the very least stop pestering me about it, until I was approached by another cousin, other side of the family, and asked if she could rent for me. I told a gentle but firm no, and explained my reasonings. She seemed disappointed but didn't bring it up. However, I did get an earful from her mother told me that it wasn't even their side of the family that screwed me over, so they shouldn't be punished. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. The mom's reaction just solidifies why you have that policy. She feels entitled. Pretty much guaranteed to have the same mission if you rent to her. Not the a-hole. You're not going to have a similar experience. You already have had it thanks to the mom's reaction. Respond, I appreciate you proving my point with the action you chose to take. You made a decision to inappropriately insert yourself into a legal agreement to demand special treatment. Your message is a perfect example of the exact reason I do not rent a family. Thank you for giving me such a reminder. Not the a-hole. You learned why it's often a bad idea to do business with, or lend money to, family. If people can't respect that boundary, it's on them. Not the a-hole. Never, never do business with family. Business of any kind. Don't give them loans, don't sell them stuff, or buy stuff from them. None of it is ever worth it. If you want to just give a family member money as a gift, fine. But as soon as it becomes about a loan or a business of any kind, it'll just cause problems. I agree. You can call it a loan, but be prepared for it to become a gift with no hard feelings. If you aren't good with that outcome, you should always say no. Not the a-hole. The rental process between me and a potential tenant is just that, between me and the potential tenant. The fact that you are involving yourself in something that is frankly none of your business is exactly why I have this no family policy in place. I'm sorry your daughter was disappointed, but you are exhibiting exactly the behavior that contributed to this policy in the first place. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister who currently could be homeless? My sister and I didn't have the best relationship growing up. She spread lies and rumors about me, and she did cause 2 of my breakups and was always my parents' favorite kid. My parents eventually disowned me, and I quickly cut them from my life and paved my own path. I would say I'm pretty successful. I do own multiple properties throughout the US, including one next to my old home where she still lives. The house is currently vacant for personal reasons, but I do go there often enough to prevent squatting. My sister recently called me up, presumably finding my number from the internet, asking if I could help her. She went on this whole spiel about how her boyfriend was abusive and so forth. I mean, it is probably true, but karma. I just simply replied, "Oh, that sucks," and hung up. I do not need her in my life anymore. She called me again a week ago, and I simply asked if she had any friends that she could go with. And she said that she lost most of her friends, and the person who she is currently living with has to move. She knows I own property, and she asked if she could use it. She says that since I already pay property tax, that her living there would do nothing. I mean, I could probably afford it, but out of literally any person in the world, I would not let her there. I would literally rather it burn down. So I just said no, and if she did come to the property, that I would call the cops. I do live about an hour away in the city, not across the country. I just told a couple of friends, and I hoped they would enjoy the schadenfreude with me. Not all of them, but a couple told me that I was unnecessarily being a jerk, and that I should have some empathy for her since our parents passed away and she was close to them. Not a-hole. Why are the stable siblings/children always supposed to rescue the messed up siblings/parents? As someone who has a sibling like that living with me right now, I wonder this all the damn time. Give your messed up sibling a move-out timeline and enforce it. I finally have, thankfully. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel would have been further away, but he refuses to go to therapy and deal with his mental illnesses, and he has opportunities to work again. So I'm less willing to have my life ruined. I didn't want him homeless during the worst of the pandemic and the rest of our family died, so I was patient for a while, but I'm not going to deal with someone being emotionally abusive when they refuse to help. No a-holes here. She wasn't really an a-hole for asking. You were fine for saying no. You really shouldn't expect other people, though, to celebrate a mistreated victim having nowhere to go. And it sounds a lot like your parents played favorites and had a golden child/scapegoat dynamic. Which means that you were likely both mistreated children, and her early bad behaviors towards you are manifestations from the parental mistreatment. It doesn't mean you need to forgive her or be nice to her, but it does mean you shouldn't expect other people to feel good about her being hurt further. Yes, being the scapegoat hurts worse, but being the golden child is also a form of child mistreatment generally. Yep, this. I agree the OP was likely hurt more growing up and would never expect someone to take in a sibling, or anyone, with this dynamic in history. If I were friends with the OP, I would 100% support their decision to not help their sibling out. They're just not the person for this, and they absolutely owe her nothing. But I would also think it would be a jerk move to expect me, as a friend, to feel great that a mistreated woman had nowhere to go, especially when the dynamic the OP describes with her parents. Not a-hole with a caveat. Not wanting your sister in your life for reasons is perfectly acceptable. Gloating to your mates over it doesn't seem like the classiest of moves, however. Were they aware of the status of your relationship with your sister, or was this news to them? In any case, you can keep her out of your life without necessarily being smug or triumphant about it.